Los Angeles, the city of angels, a land of palm trees, Hollywood glamour, ocean views, and endless sunshine. For decades, it was the dream destination, the place where ambition met opportunity, and where millions of people came in search of a better life. But today, behind the golden image and the Hollywood lights, Los Angeles is facing a crisis so severe that it threatens the very future of the city. The problem isn't just on the sidewalks or in the tent encampments lining freeway underpasses, it's now moving into entire neighborhoods in the form of what residents are calling homeless trash houses. These are homes, once ordinary single-family houses or apartment complexes that have been abandoned, squatted in, or overtaken by the homeless population. Inside, the conditions are shocking. Piles of garbage stacked to the ceiling, drug needles scattered across floors, walls stained with human waste, and makeshift barricades blocking neighbors from seeing the chaos within. For residents, the nightmare is real. Rats spreading from one property to the next, fires breaking out from illegal wiring, and waves of crime and drug activity spilling onto once quiet streets. This is no longer just a homelessness issue. This is a public safety emergency, the rise of the homeless trash house. To understand how Los Angeles reached this breaking point, we need to look back at the slow, painful evolution of the city's homelessness crisis. For decades, Skid Row served as ground zero, a sprawling, chaotic district in downtown LA, where thousands of unhoused men and women lived in tents, makeshift shelters, and shelters of cardboard and tarp. City leaders tolerated its existence, reasoning that if homelessness were concentrated in one place, it could be contained. But containment was an illusion. As housing prices climbed to record highs and affordable units all but disappeared, the crisis spread. Renters found themselves priced out of neighborhoods their families had lived in for generations. Working-class residents, one medical emergency or job loss away from disaster, slipped into homelessness. With little enforcement and even fewer resources to address the surge, tent cities began multiplying. They popped up under freeway overpasses, along sidewalks in once quiet neighborhoods, outside schools and playgrounds, and near city parks. What was once a concentrated problem became a citywide emergency, impossible to ignore. But in recent years, the crisis has taken an even darker turn: the rise of the so-called trash house. These aren't tents or makeshift shelters. They are entire abandoned homes that have been taken over and transformed into something unrecognizable. The roots of this phenomenon lie partly in California's troubled housing market. After the 2008 foreclosure crisis, thousands of homes fell into the hands of banks, out of state investors, and absentee landlords. Many of these properties were left vacant for years, with no upkeep or oversight. As the city's homeless population swelled, people began moving into these empty homes, seeing them as a safer alternative to the street. What began as scattered squats soon grew into a full-scale movement, with entire neighborhoods now dotted with houses that have been seized by squatters. The term trash house isn't an exaggeration. Step inside one of these properties and you'll find mountains of garbage stacked in every corner, old mattresses soaked with filth, and rooms turned into open-air drug dens. Fires burn inside kitchens where propane tanks are used dangerously close to piles of trash. Windows are shattered, doors broken, and graffiti covers the walls. Neighbors describe rats, cockroaches, and even feral dogs roaming freely in and out of the structures. For nearby families, these homes are more than just an eyesore. They're a constant source of fear. Trash houses have become magnets for crime. Police reports link them to overdoses, violent fights, prostitution, and gang activity. Drug dealers move in, using the homes as distribution hubs. Criminal networks sometimes charge other unhoused people rent to stay inside, turning misery into profit. Fires sparked by makeshift stoves or candles frequently spread, putting entire neighborhoods at risk. Residents living next door find themselves trapped in a nightmare, unable to sell their homes and unwilling to leave the communities they built their lives around. The rise of trash houses marks a dangerous escalation in Los Angeles' homelessness crisis. They symbolize a breakdown not just of housing policy, but of basic urban order. Where once the crisis was confined to tents and public spaces, it has now invaded the very homes meant to provide safety and stability. And unless the city finds a way to address it, Los Angeles risks losing entire neighborhoods to decay, crime, and chaos. What residents are forced to endure. Take a drive through parts of South Los Angeles, Pacoima, or Van Nuys, and you'll meet families who feel as though they are trapped in a nightmare. These are ordinary people, working parents, retirees, young children, trying to live their lives in neighborhoods they once felt proud to call home. But next door to them, just beyond their fences or across the street, sit houses that have been transformed into chaos. For residents, the word trash house doesn't even begin to capture the daily torment. One woman in Southa describes the abandoned home beside hers as a landfill with walls. She says she can't invite her grandchildren over anymore because the stench is unbearable, especially in the heat of summer. It's like the whole house is rotting from the inside, she explains. The smell of garbage, mold, and human waste seeps through the air, forcing her to seal her windows and run fans. Even when the temperature climbs past 100 degrees, another resident in Van Nuys tells a similar story. Rats scurry along fences at night, climbing onto rooftops and finding ways into kitchens. It doesn't matter how much I clean, how many traps I set, he says. The rats keep coming back from that house. For families trying to protect their children, and that Ija sick and Tez, a number coming back from that house. People more than just disgusting. It's a health hazard that feels impossible to fight. The dangers don't stop at pests. Syringes are often tossed over fences into yards where kids should be playing. Parents live in fear that their children will step on a needle or encounter squatters high on drugs. A father in Eastala describes how his 10-year-old son has to walk past men smoking meth every morning just to get to school. He asks me why they're doing that, why no one stops them, the father says, and I don't know what to tell him. Noise is another constant assault. Residents report sleepless nights as music blasts until dawn. Engines roar, and arguments turn into violent fights right outside their doors. Strangers come and go at all hours, sometimes dozens in a single day, leaving neighbors terrified about who might be lingering near their homes. It's like living next to a nightclub that never closes, one woman says, except the nightclub is full of drugs and danger. The fire risk is perhaps the most frightening. In one case, a blaze sparked inside a trash house nearly spread to 3 neighboring homes. Firefighters managed to contain it just in time, but the residents next door were left shaken, knowing their lives could have been destroyed in an instant. Makeshift stoves, open flames, and careless drug use mean that these homes are essentially ticking time bombs for entire neighborhoods. And these are not isolated stories, they are daily realities for thousands of Los Angeles families. Homeowners who have invested their life savings into modest houses now feel trapped, unable to sell because no one wants to live next to a trash house. Those who stay endure constant fear, stress, and declining property values. What should be the comfort of home has, for many, turned into a battleground against crime, disease, and despair. The rise of these conditions is leaving scars not just on the neighborhoods, but on the very sense of community. Residents feel abandoned by city officials and law enforcement, left to shoulder the burden of a crisis they did not create. The toll is emotional, physical, and financial, and unless something changes, these families will continue to endure a nightmare that grows worse by the day. Why aren't authorities doing anything? This is the question that frustrates residents the most. Night after night, they dial 911, report drug use, call city hotlines, and send emails to their council members. Yet the problem doesn't go away. To the people living next to trash houses, it feels like nobody in power cares, but the reality is more complicated. A toxic mix of bureaucracy, political paralysis, and loopholes in the law that leave communities trapped. At the heart of the issue are California's squatter laws. Unlike in many other states, California grants certain protections to individuals who occupy a property, even if they entered illegally. If squatters remain in a house long enough, they can claim limited tenant rights. Once that happens, the property owner has to go through formal eviction proceedings, which can take months or even years before the courts process. For law enforcement, this means that kicking people out isn't as simple as it looks. Even if the home is filled with garbage, drugs, and criminal activity, officers are often told their hands are tied until a judge signs off. Layer onto this the city's overwhelmed homeless services system. Los Angeles is dealing with tens of thousands of unhoused residents, and resources are stretched to the breaking point. Shelters are full, mental health treatment beds are scarce, and addiction services are constantly underfunded. When police or outreach workers approach squatters and ask them to leave, the question becomes, where can they go? Without available alternatives, many squatters simply move from one abandoned property to another, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Bureaucracy makes matters worse. Different city departments, police, code enforcement, sanitation, and housing rarely coordinate effectively. Residents say they've been bounced around from one office to another, told to call police for safety issues, code enforcement for structural problems, or public health for sanitation hazards. Each department promises to look into it, but weeks turn into months with little action. In the meantime, neighborhoods continue to deteriorate. Residents feel abandoned. Some say they've called city officials dozens of times, only to be told it's complicated or we don't have the resources. In many neighborhoods, code enforcement is backlogged for months, and property inspections are postponed repeatedly. Homeowners who want to reclaim their houses are often stuck in court battles that drag on endlessly, all while squatters destroy the property in real time. By the time the courts rule in the owner's favor, the home may already be unlivable. For families who live nearby, the lack of enforcement feels like a betrayal. They pay taxes, follow the law, and work hard to maintain their neighborhoods, yet they watch helplessly as their quality of life erodes. If I let my grass grow too long, the city slaps me with a fine, one resident says. But the house next door can be a drug den, and no one does anything. Meanwhile, the trash houses continue to spread, like cancer cells eating away at the city's stability. What begins as one abandoned home on a block often turns into 2 or 3, until an entire street feels unsafe. The lack of accountability has emboldened squatters, many of whom know exactly how to exploit the system to their advantage. The silence from authorities isn't just a failure of governance, it's fueling the collapse of trust between citizens and their leaders. For many, the question is no longer why aren't authorities doing anything, but how much longer can our communities survive without real action? The cost of doing nothing. The impact of these homeless trash houses is staggering, not only on residents' quality of life, but also on the city's economy. Home values plummet in neighborhoods overtaken by squatter houses. Families desperate for safety flee, leaving behind hollowed-out communities. Small businesses struggle as customers avoid streets lined with blight and danger. Tourism, the lifeblood of Los Angeles, also suffers as visitors document the shocking conditions and spread videos online. And then there's the financial burden on taxpayers. Every fire that breaks out in a trash house costs thousands of dollars in emergency response. Every public health hazard, rats, mold, contaminated needles, adds to the city's already strained health system. And the cycle of endless clean-ups, arrests, and court battles drains millions of dollars annually with little sign of improvement. The residents who are fighting back, but not everyone is staying silent. Across Los Angeles, groups of fed-up residents are organizing to take action. Community coalitions are forming to demand the city clean out these houses and hold absentee property owners accountable. Some are documenting every violation, taking pictures and videos to shame city officials into action. Others are banding together to file lawsuits, demanding that neighborhoods be protected from the devastation of trash houses. In one neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley, residents pooled their money to hire private security because they no longer trust police to respond. In Boyle Heights, a group of mothers organized a campaign to demand immediate removal of squatters from a house across from their children's school. Their argument is simple. No child should be forced to grow up next to a drug-infested, rat-filled garbage pit masquerading as a house. A warning to the city leaders. The message from residents is loud and clear. Los Angeles can no longer ignore this crisis. These trash houses are not just a nuisance, they are a warning sign of complete urban decay. If city leaders continue to drag their feet, the problem will only grow worse. The time to act is now. What's at stake? The very future of Los Angeles as a livable city. If middle-class families and working-class residents continue to flee, if investors pull out, and if tourism collapses under the weight of negative global headlines, the city risks becoming unrecognizable. The solution requires courage. City officials must cut through red tape and clear out these properties immediately. They must change laws that protect squatters while punishing property owners. They must invest in long-term solutions for homelessness while also protecting communities from the destruction of trash houses. The call to action. So what can residents do? First, raise your voice. Document what you see. Share your story. Don't let the crisis be swept under the rug. Demand accountability from your city council members, your mayor, and your local police department. Second, support neighborhood groups who are already fighting back. Third, recognize that this isn't just about homelessness. It's about protecting families, children, and the future of Los Angeles. Because if nothing changes, the city of angels will become a city of decay, overrun by trash houses, and abandoned by the very people who once gave it life. Closing warning: Los Angeles is at a crossroads. Either it takes bold action now to clean out the trash houses and restore safety to its neighborhoods, or it allows itself to slide into irreversible decline. This is not exaggeration, it is a reality playing out in real time. The trash houses must go. The residents deserve better, and the world is watching. Warning, Los Angeles must act now.